How's it going, everybody? This is Jason Ostrowski, and welcome to another edition of the Everything Real Estate Podcast. Today, I am excited to be joined by a good friend of mine on the podcast. He is a top producer in our industry, with his team earning Chairman Circle Diamond Award honors multiple years running now. And now he can also boast that he is a repeat guest on this podcast. I am talking about Bob Kelley, team leader of the Bob Kelley Team based out of our Bluebell office. In this episode, we're diving into a topic that resonates with so many ambitious agents and team leaders: how to scale your team for success. We'll talk about what it really takes to grow a real estate team the right way without losing your sanity, without losing your time or your personal life in the process. Bob's going to share his real-world insights on building strong systems, empowering the right people, and navigating the challenges of leadership as your business grows. So whether you're just starting to build a team or looking to take your current team to the next level, this episode is packed with good real estate advice from one of the best team leaders I know. So let's get right into the conversation this week with my guest, Bob Kelley. Bob, how's the spring market for your team right now?
It's great, man. Thanks for having me back. First of all, it's always awesome to be on here. Obviously, see you around the office all the time. But spring market's great. It's moving, and lots of inventory coming to the market. Hopefully, very very soon.
I mean, it's a good problem to have, but I am really busy with listings right now, where I feel like it just kind of flipped on a switch, and all of a sudden, here we are, the spring market. We have listings and hopefully more inventory for our buyers out there. So you and I always talk about real estate around the office, and I always value your opinion and insight. And you know I mean that sincerely. I really do. We talk for a while in the office, probably. I keep you from getting work done every time I see you. So I wouldn't blame you if you duck me around the corner to your office. So today we're going to talk about scaling your team for success. And I'm going to hop right into the questions, if you don't mind, because first up, I always wonder this. You and I have talked about this a little bit, but my first question up is your personal approach to recruiting. And at this point, are you focused more on experienced agents when you're hiring, personality fit, or potential? Or, I mean, it may, I guess, depend on what you may be looking for at, that certain point in time. But where do you look for good opportunities to grow your team and hire new quality agents?
Yeah, it's a great question. I wish I had the magic bullet of an answer for everyone. I'm sure the company wished they had the magic bullet. Every manager wished they had it. For me, it's a combination of all that, right? So the gift and the curse, new versus experience. If it's new, you can train them up the way that you see business and the way that you want it done. Experienced, it's great because all of that new stuff. How do I fill out the forms? How do I write a contract? How do I negotiate inspections? All those types of things, they've kind of already been through a few battles. So that's sort of out of the way. They know they can do it, and then you're trying to fill in the gaps some other ways for them. But for me, this past year, I would say every conversation I've had with agents that were experienced, that maybe it was the right fit, maybe we weren't the right fit for them, or vice versa, they weren't the right fit for us. It really starts with the personality, and do we want to be around these guys? Is it going to be the right fit, not only for me, but for the respect of the other team members? You know where our office is. We're jammed back in that former conference room. We hang back there. It's sort of a little bit like a frat house, but for better or worse, you kind of got to get along with the people that are already on the team. So for me, it really starts with that personal touch first, and making sure it's going to be a good fit for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's like Shea Kelly back there. Like, it's like I feel like you need a bouncer at the door for your office. There's there's a cover to get in to talk to Bob.
Well, Jake Colin back there.
I was just going to say, we'll put Jake back there as the bouncer. Hey, listen, we all have to think about like revenue streams, right?
That's right.
So you should charge a fee to get in your office at this point. So, yeah, I mean, I know your team in particular, I'm sure it's kind of like trying to find puzzle pieces that fit together.
Yeah.
So maybe, your experience as you're scaling and growing, that it becomes maybe exponentially harder to make that happen because of the fit, like you said, with personalities.
Yeah.
It has to be a certain type of person. So I always value your opinion on that because you make it work regardless. And so, when your team starts to grow, many team leaders struggle with letting go of control. I know for me personally, that is a huge issue for me.
Yeah.
I really need to do that better. What do you do to empower others to take the lead on parts of the team business, if at all? Because sometimes, team leaders control everything with an iron fist. Other times, team leaders are delegating big portions of responsibility to others on their team. So how does that fit in with what you do in your team?
Yeah. I would say we do a hybrid of that. I feel like probably most teams operate similarly. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's on there. But the most important thing for us, if you're a member on our team, you are chief number one in charge of that relationship. And I think, there's other models out there. There's other, you read other real estate team leader books that talk more about the assembly line or like the dentist appointment approach, which, whatever, that's not a real thing for real estate. You go through there. It's, if it's the Jason Ostrowski team and I am an agent on your team, if it's my best friend, they're hiring me because of me, right? If it's a team member's, family member, they're hiring them to represent them in a real estate transaction because of them. So like they need to stay at the forefront of that relationship. So for me, that's like, we just keep it really, really simple. That's number one. Then the other stuff that goes along with running the team, we have open dialogue throughout the team. I sort of have an open door policy. We've had many things that come up, sort of how we run the team, whether it's on a weekly basis or transactionally or marketing ideas or whatever, where we get input from the team members. Some things are great, some things are not so great. We'll try some stuff and we'll go out from there. But it really starts for me with, as we're scaling, like you said, letting go. Every real estate agent, you have a hard time letting go of any control, right? It's we don't get paid unless things get to the settlement table. So I think keeping the team member like chief and paramount in the relationship is a number one, and then how do we support that behind there and just build things beyond that. So I mean, I know it kind of bounced around on the question a little bit, but for me, that's like the number one core of how we run our team.
Yeah, and I think you have to let agents have autonomy as much as possible. Like you said, especially with the clients that potentially are theirs,
Yeah.
Obviously the overview is you run the team how you see fit. If someone was violating some principle or value of the team, obviously you want to step in there. How do you, just off topic question here, how do you handle your team? Like, do you do a lot of team marketing together? And is that primarily you that puts together those marketing pieces, or do you delegate any of that out to other team members?
Yeah, so over the years, we've done a number of different things. There is a lot of stuff we do from a team level based off of transactions. So, and from that, we run, they get the business that kind of runs through the team. So whether it's me, whether it's admin, I'll put in a little plug for company, the marketing concierge is great, for your office, meet with them. They have a lot of ideas that they use with other teams. They can help you implement. So, that's a way to kind of, hire that out, sub that out, but it's someone who's more skilled in that. So we've been doing a lot of that, I would say maybe the last 6 months for things. And I think that has helped us, just get a little bit more systematized along the way, where it's just kind of, here's a new listing. These are the kind of steps that are going to happen. Here's a buyer under contract. Here's what's going to happen from there.
Well, I think you and I also talk about, if you're going to scale your team and you're going to be successful, you have to have systems, because it just, the beast grows too large to not have systems. It's just too unwieldy at that point to be successful. So, you and I had this discussion a bit just talking to each other around the office, but I want to ask you again on this podcast, because I think it's an important question for any team leader looking to grow their team. How do you balance your team's production with your own personal production as the leader of an expanding team that constantly requires more of your time, especially if you're hiring new agents? Obviously, that's going to be even more of your time. But how do you handle that and still provide that quality service to your clients?
Yeah, I'm going to give my real truthful answer. It's going to sound a little corny and a little fake, but I promise you that it is not. And for the millions of listeners, it is not. When you start a team, it's like starting a new relationship. It's not all about you anymore. Like it's just not. So if you want it to be all about you, you should just kind of get some support and hire some marketing people and some admin in there. So it's, there's a name on the team, whatever. It's, that is what it is. But you're giving up your time to help some other people grow. And through that, they'll grow their business. The overall business will grow. Financially, kind of everyone can win in that scenario. Personally, it feels great helping some people out. You managed before, what that's like when you see an agent go from new to kind of, oh my God, they're kind of getting like, oh, they're an agent now. They're really rocking and rolling. So for me, that's kind of starts with that. But then how do you manage it? I'm a really big believer in, everyone in the company sort of plays a different role, right? You have your support staff, your admin, you have your conveyancers, and all of these people have to do all of the things for the sausage to get made. But the team leader, it's a different role. So I know there's some team leaders that have sort of stepped out of production. I think as the years go on, you sort of skew more to one area of business than the other. For me, I think it's really important. I use the phrase all the time. You have to have some blood on the sword. You have to be out there doing it. You have, you're in the trenches with your guys, so you're feeling it firsthand. Like, oh, wow, okay, the market's still blazing hot in some areas. I'm one of 21 offers. That doesn't feel great. You don't get it. How do we get our clients there? What are some tips and tricks going through it? You can't just be like asleep at the wheel as a team leader. So you need to do some, but you can't be so busy that you're not available for the team. So I think as we've grown, to kind of maybe tie it back in, we've done a lot of, on our team, if I have a direct referral, you're a past client of mine, you refer somebody, I'm always going to respect that. I want to work with it. But I rely on the strength of the team. We have more manpower than a lot of agents do. So if that's important to you as a buyer, the market's moving really fast. You hit me up right now. You need to see a house at 6:00 tonight. I already have an appointment scheduled. You're a standalone agent. It's really hard to manage. So I handle that from the first call with clients. Like, hey, I'm with you. I'm working for you. I'm your client, but we're also not going to miss opportunities. We have people here, so we can kind of include them in there. It's a way for them to kind of share in a couple sales, lessens the burden of especially on the buy side, on the showing traffic. I've never had a client feel like they've been like handed off to somebody or not there. So I think that's probably, for me, that's a good way to handle it. It's how we handle it. I don't know that I always have the right answer for it, but that's how we do it.
No, I think you do a fantastic job. And I do 100% agree with you that, being a team leader or being on a team does provide you some luxury. I was just away.
Yeah.
And I do feel good. Like I handed one of my listings off to a team member of mine. I felt like they were in very good hands. I let them know. They met my team member as well, and so that gives me some flexibility. But still, they know that they're getting me. Yep. And re-emphasizing that if you hire me, you are getting me. I'm not handing you off to somebody. Right. So how do you best handle your onboarding for new team members to ensure that they ramp up quickly and embrace your team's standards? Because each team, and I'm thinking of some of the bigger teams that you and I run, and Lisa run that team leader meeting.
Yeah.
And we see some big teams on there, really, really productive teams. And each one of them may have different standards for anybody that they hire on their team. So how do you go about that? How do you make sure that they're productive quickly?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it is really like a collective approach. And I would say the areas where I'll just start where I am like maybe a little weakest at. I have a couple agents on my team who are great. So I'll give a shout out to Michelle Terralong. Michelle, in a previous life, did training for another company. She started with our team as an admin. She was great. She was getting the bug to get back into sales a little bit more. So we made a transition a couple of years ago for that. She's killed it. She's a rock star. But she loves helping out those other agents when they come on. So she's, you can get her and she'll go through it. Laura, John Marshall, who's, a great producer on our team. John's great with transactional stuff. He can kind of get you to close. So when we have new agents come on, we want them to meet a bunch of people on the team. There's a few things. Hey, this is how we do it for our team, right, wrong, or indifferent. This is what we do. But the transactional stuff, it is like, I think the age old question is, well, are we going to dive into all the paperwork first so you can explain the contract, or are we going to teach you to go out and, get some clients first? Because if you'd like to make money, which at some point here, it's sort of the goal. You need to attract clients, right? You can know the contract cold. That's called a paralegal. That's not someone who's making money in real estate. So you have to be able to attract clients. So we talk a lot about that, but it's tough to manage. So I think for onboarding for us, that's for new, and then for agents who had some experience coming over. I mean, I think back a few years ago, we had Devin come over. And she had started COVID with another brokerage, and not bad math in the brokerage. She didn't have someone to go to for help. So she kept, like, the simple stuff. Where do I find the agreement of sale? Like, just that simple stuff. When she was coming to join our team, she had her license. She had a couple transactions under her belt. But the simple question was, what are you not getting? Like, what do you need? And then, like, I'm usually pretty honest. I can either help you with that or I can't. I mean, we talked to someone recently where it's like they were asking for something that they need. I mean, it's not something that we would do for you. So it was, it's, to me, that's not a hard thing to be upfront and honest about it. But just really trying to fill that gap. Like, if they're experienced and they're coming from another brokerage, another team, what do you like about where you're at? What do you think you need? Okay, here's where I think we can fit, and kind of go from there.
Well, I do think that the most important part of anybody that you're going to talk to is being upfront about how you run your team. Is specifically, let's just talk, usually the thing that you may have a conversation with another potential team member about is, are you providing leads? What are you doing to increase their business? Those types of questions you get up front. And I think to handle that, obviously, before they join the team would be very beneficial for anybody to have that kind of discussion, along with the values of the team that you look for in a potential agent. So I want to ask you about lifestyle, right? Because you run a pretty extravagant lifestyle, let's be honest about it. So what boundaries or practices do you put in place to protect your time outside of real estate? Because you and I joke about this all the time. I feel like either you're doing something real estate wise or you're running like the kids around for sports,
Yeah.
I know a lot of your time goes into that, but you do protect that time. So how do you best do that?
Yeah. I mean, we could get Mrs. Kelley on here to ask if I protect the time or not. I mean, I think she might have a sort of a little bit of a different opinion than I do. I think it's really hard, right? I also, like, I'll say this and we can blurt it out. I also think balance is bullshit. Like, I mean, if you want to make money in anything, I don't care what it is. Like, if you want to be successful in something, you have to put the time in. So this whole notion of like, oh, I'm only available until 3. Well, okay, then you should have been a bank teller in like 1994, because that's not what this job is. So I think it's sort of a ridiculous notion to that whole idea of balance. Now, like, okay, you do need a break. You do need some stuff. I have a family, and any agent in our company who's listening to this, I have a son who's a high school senior and a baseball player at lovely North Penn High School that we're both alumni of. So shout out to North Penn. I have a daughter who's a junior at Gwinnett Mercy High School. She's a softball player, and our summers are filled with that, and you have to work around that. So I'm available. I'm an early bird. I'm up early. I generally go to bed, at a normal time. At some point, we're not replying to text messages at 11 o'clock at night for real estate. The world will go on. We'll be okay in the morning. But I do try to block a little bit of time here and there. If the one joy of working in real estate that I get like super passionate and a little like corny about is, if you have a family, you can kind of go to some of those things that people who work in a factory can't go to, or like, hey, if they're like, my wife's a teacher, there's stuff she could never go to, but I can kind of work my schedule around that as long as it's not infringing on the relationship with the clients. And it's typically not. So for me to show up at a high school baseball or softball game for a couple hours midweek isn't really the end of the world. And, I'm able to do both that way. And, maybe that means when I'm coming home, I'm digging out and I'm working for a couple more hours. It's okay. Like that's, I think the important thing with the lifestyle, whether you're, a single guy or girl, or you're married with kids, whatever the case may be, I think it's all what's your relationship like at, on the home front. I think where a lot of agents, in the office get into having issues with lifestyle, it's they didn't realize what they signed up for. There's no communication with the spouse. It's like, yeah, sometimes when you're on vacation, stuff happens. You sold a house 2 weeks ago and the hot water heater went and they're new to the area. They don't know anybody. You're their resource. That's what your job is.
I've always been very lucky, obviously, having a wife that's in the business. I get away with probably a lot more than maybe other husbands would not be able to get away with that are in the business because they do understand. But I still even get it. If we're out to dinner,
Yeah.
if we're somewhere where I'm supposed to be paying attention and I'm looking at my phone. And guilty is charged. But I do think that obviously if you're going to scale your team, you have to be kind of a workhorse, right? You have to, like you had mentioned, getting up early. I detest getting up early. I can't stand it. I would rather work until 2 a.m. than get up at like 7:30. That's just not my thing. But like you said, we do have flexibility to run our teams how we see fit, but you have to put in the hours regardless. And I do feel like this, you and I are the same age. I feel like this is like our hustle years, right? Like we have to put in that time now and, and make hay while we can so I can relax later on in life, hopefully. And that's my mentality right now with it. I know that that work-life balance that, people always talk about that is very, very hard to achieve for us. I like what I do, so I really don't look at it like, I disapprove of the hours that I'm putting in. I think you feel the same way, right?
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. And I also think the agents who are good agents, right? When you're a good agent, they care about the clients. It's not just transactional. They really care. And look, the reason we exist is this is stressful for the clients. It's very emotional. It's residential real estate. It's not just like a business transaction. That's a part of it. But, this is where they're going to raise their family, or, hey, this is where we're downsizing. Or, oh, my God, this is where mom lived and we got to sell the house. So you have to be there for them. And these relationships, they can last for years. You and I both had clients that referred business for, probably the whole time you've been in the business. Same with me. But when the transaction's going on, they're like white hot, intense relationships that need your attention. And like you said, you're out to dinner. Sometimes something needs it. I think that's the hardest thing. There's a couple of the agents on our team that we talk about openly all the time, where it's like, you want to do the right thing, you want to be there, you want to do everything. At what point when are you going above and beyond and giving great service? Because that's what's really important to the overall business, versus when is it okay to, like, all right, that one can wait until the morning. It's hard to manage. Hard to manage.
I think that comes with experience, and learning the business more, learning client relationships more. Obviously, you're going to do more hand-holding for certain personality types than you are for others. And speaking of personality types and circling back like to your team members, right? Yeah. How do you ensure that each agent on your team feels supported, you get them motivated and aligned with the overall vision of your group? Like in management, that's a difficult thing, right? The culture of the office, you have to be one cohesive, or you're hoping that it's one cohesive group, but at the same time, it's very individualistic. So how, as a team leader, do you do that? Do you try and make that happen?
Yeah. I think that's a really tricky one to manage, because at the end of the day, when something is going on for a team member, you really have to compartmentalize and prioritize, like really with anything in life, but especially with the team members. From my experience, whatever is going on in their like if it's a deal doctoring, this is going on, whatever, you have to, when you're giving them the time, your time has to be dedicated to them, and that's sort of it. And then when that call is done, it can't spill into the next call. So you really have to kind of be there in a way that is supportive, and you not make them feel like they really are the center of your attention for that moment. And then beyond that, how they feel individually supported throughout the year, like not just transactionally is, we have regular check-ins at the end of each year when we're doing goal setting and things like that. We're asking, what do you want to get out of real estate this year? I think that is a great question that not enough people ask. I think a lot of people started in this business for flexibility or the myth of flexibility. I have a famous line. I'm patenting it. Anyone can use it, but you owe me $1 if you use it. The prison of freedom. So it's a good one. I see it.
That's very, very
right. Yeah. But how are you managing that? And then with each team member, what's important to them? Like I have team members on my team that they want to kill it and they're great at transactions. They're great with clients. They don't want to deal with any of the administrative BS. They don't want to deal with that stuff. They want to be so like for those people, it's like, let's be a great offensive lineman and block, so you can run the ball. For other people, it's, I want you to go out on listing appointments, whatever the case may be. And like, you kind of have to have some flexibility in that. So I think just having the question, and this is the luxury of being a team leader versus like an office manager, right? However many agents we have in our office, Anne is a tremendous manager by any metric you could put on her. She can't do that for 200 people at a time at that intense of a level. You can do it for a team. So I think it's just kind of trying to tailor the experience to each one of them as best you can. You can also understand you can't be everything to everyone.
Well, piggybacking off of that question that I just asked you, how do you handle conflict within a growing team while maintaining a positive culture? Because, from time to time, you have enough people on your team. There may be some disagreement in certain aspects of what the team does or, how you as a team leader may handle a situation. How do you keep it all positive and going in the right direction, right? You're all moving in the same direction.
Yeah. That's a great question. I mean, over the years, definitely have made mistakes, right? So you're learning to ride a bike, you fall off, you scrape your knee, you get back on, right? I think the one thing about our team that's sort of a common thread to kind of, I'm going to go back to the recruiting question for a minute, but tie it back in. A common trait on our team is everyone's pretty real, right? So like everyone has an ego in life about everything, but everyone's pretty real. So the dialogue's usually pretty open on our team. And I think anytime there's been any little bit of conflict, we typically do a good job just meeting it head on. Like, and it's individual, right? Like if it's, one team member with another, get both sides, but don't blow it up to whatever. We haven't knock on wood, we haven't had a lot since we've started the team. There are some things that come up here and there. We just try to be, upfront and open and honest about it. And I think, calling someone and saying like, hey, we gotta have a tough conversation. Like this happened, let's figure out how we're going to clean it up. So I just think just being upfront about it is probably the best advice I have.
I think that is the best way to describe your team. I do think that the team tends to take on in a lot of ways the personality of the team leader, or maybe even subconsciously when you're hiring new team members, you hire people that obviously you relate to or you gravitate towards.
Yeah.
I think all the members that I've met on your team are very open, very honest, very real, very blunt. I think you're that way as well, like in a good way, not
for good and bad.
I'm saying like, I always say this about you, like you will always know where Bob stands. You know what I mean? But you make it known and not like, not like a jerky way, you know what I mean? But like, I always know where you stand on things and I respect that about you. And I feel like the same thing goes for your team members as well. So, all right. So what's a mistake that you made while scaling your team that you would not make again?
Yeah.
You don't make mistakes, but if you
No. Yeah. I don't make any mistakes. No, I've definitely made a million mistakes. I've made every mistake you can make. I mean, I think, I have a couple things to come to mind. I think you can, as you're growing a team or even as your business is growing, if you're an individual agent, you can hire out a lot of things, you can sub out a lot of things, but the one thing you can't do, and I made this mistake in the past, is you can't sub out communication. Like that's got to come from you. That can't be secondary. So if, you brought up conflict a bit ago, we don't have a lot of that on our team, but when there is, you've got to take the charge of that. And so I think that's number one. Like that's the one thing where, whether you're right or wrong, or trying to see someone else's perspective or whatever the case may be, you've got to take that kind of head on. That's the thing that's sort of like leadership 101 anyway. And the other thing is just in bringing on agents, we've been really, really lucky. I'm not going to even say good. I'm just going to say we've been really lucky. We have a lot of agents on our team that have been with our team for a really long time. So take for that whatever you want. And those people are great. Everything's good. There was throughout the years a couple people that we've brought on that I was like, I don't know. I don't know if this person's going to make it. And sort of against my better judgment, maybe a little too fast to hire. Been generally pretty quick at getting rid of people I don't think are going to make it, or not, not participating and not active. But that's one mistake for sure. Just, trying to figure out if someone's going to be the right fit. I mean, you probably better than me, of more, different experience from a management standpoint. You never know who's going to make it in this business. It's really, really hard to tell. You always have an idea, and sometimes you're like, hey, this is like a can't miss person. But until you have that like tough transaction and a million like really difficult conversations, you don't know if the person's going to make it or not. So I think that's one for sure. Mistake wise, it falls under that communication area where it's like probably should have thought that one through a little bit more.
I do think that I was after I left management. I was a solo agent again. I told myself like the only way that I would start a team again is if, I'm really discerning on who I'm putting on that team, because I think it really is easy as a team leader to fall into, okay, they have a pulse, I'm going to put them on my team, right? Yeah. That's the worst, in my opinion. That's the worst thing that you can do. Yeah. You really want people that not only fit with the team's personality, but also what's the potential of that person. Like I always, like you had mentioned sports earlier, like offensive lineman blocking. I always look at it like, okay, this agent, when I was hiring, like this agent has this ceiling potentially, in my opinion. Like this is where I see this agent being. Sure. And some are going to be superstars, some are going to be mid-level producers. That's fine. To each his own, based on maybe the numbers, hours they want to put in, the hunger and desire that they have, the personality traits that they have. You can kind of extrapolate where you think they're going to be. Sometimes you're surprised. Sometimes you're disappointed, know?
Yeah.
But I do think that you have to think about, okay, long term, how is this going to benefit my team? Because if it's going to take too much of your time involved with this person, and they're not going to be productive to the point you want them to be, then like kind of what's the point? Like I'd rather just have that time back. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. And I also think I do agree. And I think the other thing that probably I don't think enough team leaders think about this, but like the person you're talking to, it doesn't forget about the production. New agent, $10 million a year producer, 28. Forget about all that, right? Like obviously everybody wants everyone that produces, millions and millions of dollars, obviously. But does that person want to be on your team?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like, do you want to be with them? Right? And sometimes the answer is they're a great agent and they're a great person, but they don't really want to be on the team. That's okay. That's all right. Like that's why there's a million different options out there. So to me, I think that's an important question too. Like, do they want to be on the team? Do you want to spend the time? Right. That's a fair question. I would say that to me is a bigger thing when I'm looking at, we talked about a little bit with the recruiting question. Like, do I want to spend the time with this person?
Yeah. That you bring up such a great point. That is true. Like when we have team leader meetings, I'm always asking the question, like, what do you need from me? What do you want from me? What will make this experience be better about being on the team? Because like you said, as soon as you start a team, it's not about you anymore.
That's right.
It's we provide value to our clients, but as team leaders, we have to provide value to our team.
Right.
And that's point blank. And that's a testament to you that so many agents on your team have stayed on your team. And I think that's the best evidence of a good team leader. Now again, other agents may want to do their own thing and lead. There's nothing wrong with that either. Like I want to grow leaders. And so like if they want to leave and they want to start and do their own thing, then I'm very happy about that. And I'm happy for them, so it's really what you want out of it. So how do you best maintain, I'm going to end with this question. How do you best maintain a high level of service as your team grows in size? Because again, we talk about systems and having that kind of down to help scale. So how do you maintain that high level of service?
Yeah, I actually think this is a really easy one. I also think it's something that's getting I'm going to be like old man on the porch, right, for a minute. I think it's getting a little lost in our industry right now. We're in the customer service business, right? We're selling a service. There are an awful lot of us just in the Philly marketplace. I don't even know what the numbers are anymore. At one point, it was around 25,000. So it's a little bit of choice out there if you're looking to hire a real estate agent. Yeah. I think, if you're doing this job, and also if you're going to be a team leader, but like if you're just as an agent, and for our team, we talk about this, this comes up multiple times a week. You have to be of service to the client. That's a job. You have to know all the contracts. You have to know how to go find new clients. You have to do all this. But like when you have a client, you have to be of service to that client. And that means a million things. Like you said, some may need more hand-holding. Some may be locked in financially. Some may need a little coaching on that to get ready to get their credit in order to become a first-time buyer, whatever. But you have to be of service. And that means when the transaction's going on, that means when there's conflict at, whether are we still doing home inspections, whether there's home inspection issues, if there's an appraisal issue, if there's a financing issue. So like we talk about that early on with all of our agents. I would think if you call any agent on our team, they can probably think of examples with recent transactions where it's come up where there's been any issue. What is best for the client? Like that's short of doing your job wrong, that's really the only thing that matters. Everything else kind of falls behind that. So we talk about it a lot. We practice it a lot when it comes up in questions, when you're getting into those multiple bids, what's the best thing for my seller here? We talk through those things. That's actually my favorite part of being a team leader is like, you're kind of involved in a lot of transactions. So I just think, making it paramount to make yourself available. You are servicing the client. Don't get it twisted. Like that's the job. You work for the client.
I mean, I know we're talking about teams, but just client relations, like we are a team. Like if you're hiring me, we are a team. I am not, the dictator, right? I'm not like here to tell you how it's going to be. You and I formulate a game plan. We put it together and we execute. And I think that's the best way to go about real estate. So, all right. So fun fact. I told you I was going to end on that last question. I lied. Fun fact.
Bonus.
You and I, you knew this was going to be coming anyway. You and I shared, past tense now, the same barber.
Yes.
And I know that you got your hair cut like every other day. Like that thing, you got that high and tight thing going on there.
Everything.
Now that our mutual barber Kel has gotten out of business, are you now going to grow that mullet with the perm in the back that you've always wanted?
No, I can't do it. My son, if you want to look him up, he's got great flow as they call it on the baseball field. He looks great. It came back with a vengeance a number of years ago. They all, you can see the videos online of all the guys look the same. That's just generationally, I'm not going to be able to meet him there, unfortunately.
Well, I got to tell you, I am kind of heartbroken. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
I know a lot of people are.
It was like when you texted me that he was leaving, and I was like, I honestly, I was devastated.
Yeah. What
am I going to do with myself now? Like I never thought that a barber would be so important in your life, or just, I for everybody listening, whether it's, a hairdresser or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like empty now. I'm like an empty shell.
Dead a little bit inside.
Yeah, I am dead inside. All right. Well, listen, man, I'm going to let you get out of here. You know why I appreciate you. You know why I appreciate you coming on here.
Always mutual, man.
Always great insight from you. So I'll be seeing you around the office.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, man.
That was the conversation with Bob Kelley. It's always great to talk real estate with Bob. Here are a couple of takeaways that I had from our time together. Number one, if you are a team leader and you're looking to expand your team and to scale your team, make sure that you are systematic in your approach as a team leader. As the team gets bigger, you're going to have to employ some kind of system or systems to manage your time and manage everything that you need in order to be successful. So number one, in order to scale and scale successfully, you better be systematic. Number two, if you're looking to add team members, make sure they are the right fit for your team. We all know team leaders out there that hire anything with a pulse. Don't be one of those team leaders. I think the most successful team leaders have a value system in mind, something that they look for in other agents that follow the characteristics of the team, that work together as one, to make sure that you're all on the same page, you're all pulling in the same direction, and you all have the same ideas about what makes for a successful real estate business and a successful real estate experience for your clients. And last but not least, if you want to be a successful team leader that wants to scale and grow larger, you're going to have to put in the hours to make that happen. As Bob says, the work-life balance thing is great. You need to carve out time, make sure that you have that family time, but it takes a lot of lift to make any business successful, and the same goes for running a real estate business and being a team leader. You have to put in the hours. You get out of it what you put into it. And I love what Bob said about if you want to be a team leader, then it's not about you anymore, right? It's about providing value to your team in order to make it successful. And you better be willing to work to make that happen. That is the podcast for this week, but before we get out of here, I want to give a special shout out to Patty O'Harrick, the former head of our educational department at Fox & Roach. Patty has now retired and is going to be hopefully sitting poolside with a strong drink pretty soon, if not already. I wanted to thank Patty because Patty was the one who gave me the opportunity to do this podcast when she became the department head. She had the vision of what this could be and gave me the opportunity to run with it. So I sincerely want to thank her for that. She did unbelievable work through the pandemic, which was the ultimate challenge in running the educational department when we could no longer be there in person to actually take some of these classes that the educational department provides. So great work, Patty. Cheers to you, and we all hope that you enjoy your next chapter. That's it for the podcast this week. We will be back in another couple of weeks with a new topic, a new guest, and as always, if you want to hear something that we haven't covered yet, please reach out to me, jason.ostrowski@foxroach.com. And if you haven't liked or subscribed to the podcast yet or left us a review, please do so. It helps us to reach more people. Once again, this is Jason Ostrowski saying stay safe out there, stay selling, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast.